What's up, guys? It's the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation.
Shaka laka laka. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 161 of Caught in Conversation. Three's a crowd. As always, I am your host, the Essential John L. Crossfire, and I am riding solo this week. It has been a very hectic week. Just stuff and things and family dramas and, just stuff of that nature, on top of the fact that it is currently Easter time. So, first and foremost, if you're listening to this, I hope you have a good Easter, depending on when you do listen to this. But the title of this episode seemed a little bit clever to me, given the fact that today we will be talking about variations of the triple threat match. And then, of course, last week's episode with our guests Two's Company, which was completely unrelated to this episode, but was also actually called It Takes Two. So I thought it was a nice, clever little continuation of that. And, of course, shout out to those guys. And go back and listen to that episode if you haven't already. But yes, today is episode 161, Three's a Crowd. This episode has been inspired by TNA Unbreakable 2025, which just happened yesterday as I'm recording this episode, and it paid homage to an absolute banger triple threat match from Unbreakable 2005. So I, John L. Crossfire, decided on an ADHD whim while I was watching this TNA Unbreakable 2025 event. First off, I was like, should I do a review and should I compare it to this original triple threat and da-da-da-da. And then at some point, my ADHD kicked in and I compiled not one, but two top 10 lists. I will be talking my top 10 personal favorite triple threat matches, and then I will be counting down what I think are the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time. And of course, if you're neurodivergent like me, if you're a little bit neurospicy, you will understand that those two aren't mutually exclusive and can be different. Obviously, a lot of the times people's favourites are their favourites because they think they're the best, but I'd like to think that I've got a pretty good grasp on this whole wrestling thing, so I like to break it down into categories. That's just who I am. That's just what I do. Before I get to the song and match of the week, I do want to hammer this point home. I have said many, many times now in the last few weeks that I'm going to keep hammering this point home, and Lord knows when I'll stop. But the Emma Butler Memorial Show has been changed. The date has been changed. At Cowra, it is still at the Cowra Uniting Church, but it will now take place on October 11th, not November 1st. Forget that. Doesn't exist. We have pushed it forward October 11th. For the Emma Butler Memorial Show in Little Cowra, New South Wales. It is the same weekend as the Bathurst 1000, the main race, of course, being the Sunday. So you can come, watch some awesome wrestling on the Saturday, raise money for an amazing, amazing cause, and then on the Sunday you can shoot through and have a rowdy time with the V8s. Like, I'm just saying, I don't know, you might have something else planned on that weekend, but I just think that's a pretty good game plan. I also apologise if you can hear a little tink, tink, tink. Because it's solo episode and Nova isn't here, things are a bit louder at the moment. And I'm obviously, as many people know, very animated as I talk. And my microphone cord is literally smacking the leg of my coffee table right now. So if you can hear a little tink, tink, tink throughout all of that, I'm sorry, but I'm going to leave this in. This is all one take. You get what you pay for, and that's free 99. F-R-E-E. I love that little expression, but, that's just neither here nor there. The song of the week this week is Unbreakable by Citizen Soldier. It's been a while since we have dropped a Citizen Soldier song here on CIC Pod, and I thought, what better song than the same title track of the event that inspired this episode, which was a combination of Unbreakable 2025 and obviously Unbreakable 2005 with that banger AJ Styles, Daniels, Samoa Joe matchup. But speaking of matchups, your actual official match of the week for this week is actually Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey from WrestleMania 35. It seemed very fitting, being that this is dropping on WrestleMania weekend. It's WrestleMania season, baby. Forget Easter, forget everything else. It's Wrestle effing Mania. Anyway, an episode about triple threats, why not, to put it to this match on top of the fact that it is WrestleMania season. Despite the awkwardness to the very last finishing spot to this match, which unfortunately is what most people remember because it was the last spot of the match, the build-up to this match is one of the best build-ups that WrestleMania has had in quite some time, if we're being honest. Like, the whole build-up with Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda was amazing. All three women showed so much intensity in the build-up to this. They really did a good job of blurring the lines between kayfabe and reality. I know it's kind of redundant saying that on a podcast that kind of, bends kayfabe right to its breaking point, but no, they did a really good job of bending all the elements, and I really appreciate it. And despite the clunky ending, and despite all three of these women being very divisive in certain circles amongst wrestling fans, I feel this match definitely delivered and was very fitting for a main event of WrestleMania, and very fitting that it was the very first ever women's main event for WrestleMania as well. But yeah, the match of the week this week, we're talking triple threats. It's WrestleMania season. So we got Becky versus Charlotte versus Ronda, WrestleMania 35. But now, I'm just going to go straight into this. This is where I'm going to start ranting. This is where I'm going to start rambling. Putting the ranting in, ranting, reviewing, and marking out. But I'm too lazy to reach over and press the actual button myself. But trying to get the taglines out there, brother. Trying to get my shit in. No, but putting the ranting literally into the ranting, review, and marking out. This is going to be me just rambling for, 30 odd minutes. Who knows where this will go. I'll try not to talk, too much and have a nice little easy breezy episode, but I'll be doing my top 10 favourite triple threat matches first. Then I'll do 3 honourable mentions. I thought it was clever to only have 3 for a triple threat centered episode, and then I'll count down the top 10 best. I'll have a bit of information on all of these, but I'll try not to be super detailed when it comes to the favorites, because as much as they're near and dear to me, it's probably not as important as the best ones in the grand scheme of things. But without further ado, let's get into it. My top 10 favorite triple threat matches of all time. Kicking it off at number 10, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Chris Benoit at Backlash 2004. I don't know what it is about this match exactly, but I personally just really enjoyed this match just that little bit more than the one that they had at WrestleMania 20. And obviously without WrestleMania 20 being as good as it was, the rematch wouldn't have happened to begin with. But in my personal opinion, this match absolutely knocks it out of the park. Absolutely well and truly over-delivered from the expectations. Number 10 on my top 10 favourite triple threat matches of all time is Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Chris Benoit from Backlash 2004. And again, if you listen to this whole episode, I appreciate it, because this is just me speaking my opinion into a microphone on an episode that literally no one asked for, but this is what you get here at CIC Pod. Number 9 on my top 10 favourite triple threat matches of all time. Terry Funk versus the Sandman versus Stevie Richards in a 3-way dance. Cheeky little variation, elimination variation from ECW Barely Legal. And I've actually talked about this one previously on a couple of different episodes. It was a game changer for ECW during the time period that this happened. I actually just did a few ECW-centered episodes not too long ago where they were talking about like the lost footage and stuff, and then I did one where it was the ECW Reloaded, where I imagined what it would be like for modern-day wrestlers in that classic ECW environment. And I believe I talked about that match in one of those 2 episodes. I'm sure someone that actually listens to the show will correct me if I'm wrong, but I definitely have talked about that match on previous episodes regardless. But yeah, number 9 on my top 10 favorites is Terry Funk versus the Sandman versus Stevie Richards, ECW Barely Legal. I believe the year was 1997. Didn't actually write that down off the top of my head, but it was the first ever official ECW pay-per-view of all time, and that whole card from top to bottom top to bottom, what are words by the t-shirt. Whole card from top to bottom absolutely slaps. I actually have that DVD somewhere. It came with I said to quickly move a few things, which you probably heard, but the tinkering was annoying me. This is what you get in the free podcast. But yeah, I actually have this match on DVD. I have the Barely Legal DVD. They released it with ECW One Night Stand 2006 when they originally did the WWE ECW revival. They put it in there as like a bonus disc, which was pretty cool. And the majority of the like OG footage is actually there, and entrance themes and like stuff like that. Really, really cool stuff. But yeah, number 9 on that list was Terry Funk versus the Sandman versus Stevie Richards. I'm sorry, this is already chaotic because my ADHD brain was getting annoyed by my tinkering. But here we are. Number 8 on my top 10 favorite triple threat matches of all time. Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio versus CM Punk from IWA Mid-South Spring Heat 2002. This happened in March of 2002. It was either March 1st or March 2nd. I didn't write the actual date down because the event's there. It's Spring Heat 2002. You can find it there. I believe it is actually still on IWTV with all of the classic, archive footage of IWA Mid-South that's on there. I don't know, because I actually had to deactivate my account because I couldn't afford it at the moment with medical bills, so it kind of got kicked out of the rotation. But it's out there on YouTube and stuff anyway, on the IWA YouTube channel, and I think a few other people may have illegally uploaded it on their YouTube channels as well. but the footage is out there. It's easy to see. And it's just so crazy to think that those names I listed actually had a triple threat match, let alone the fact that it happened on the indies. But this was during that brief period where Eddie Guerrero was let go from the then WWF because of his substance issues and stuff like that. And, he got himself clean. He fought himself back through the ranks to get himself re-signed and etc., etc. But yeah, this match, banger of a match. And it's crazy to think that at this point of the career where these guys are at, the match is that good. Could you imagine these guys in their prime going at it? And unfortunately, we will never get that, and we never got that. But number 8 on the list, Eddie Guerrero versus an unmasked Rey Mysterio, by the way, versus CM Punk, IWA Mid-South Spring Heat 2002. Just, chef's kiss, absolute banger. Number 7 on this list, Los Guerreros versus Rey Mysterio and Edge versus Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, Survivor Series 2002. This is a triple threat elimination tag team match. Back-to-back Eddie Guerrero matches here, but sue me. This is why it's on the favorites portion. But this is a straight-up tag team classic. Honestly, one of my favorite tag team matches of all time, regardless of any stipulation or what have you like that. But Los Guerreros, that's Eddie and Chavo Guerrero, versus Rey Mysterio and Edge, versus Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, Survivor Series 2002. Just fucking wow. Absolutely wow. Match number 6 on this list, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus John Cena from Survivor Series 2009. This is an absolute hidden gem in what was the start of a somewhat, I don't want to say like boring point, but somewhat of a dull point. It was a lull period in WWE. Wrestling in general has its kind of peaks and valleys and its roller coaster up and downs, and this was kind of the start of a really awkward point for WWE. But they had some amazing talent around that time that unfortunately gets lost in the shuffle over the years. But this is genuinely, I know that like they're all big names, but it is genuinely a hidden gem from this time period of WWE. Again, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus John Cena, Survivor Series 2009. And admittedly, maybe this one's a little bit higher on my personal favorite list purely on the fact that I did also get to watch this match with my dad as well. But over the years, he became very jaded with wrestling because none of them were Hulk Hogan, brother, and he was a very big fan of The Undertaker. This was around the time Taker was slowly starting to ease off as well. So the fact that I was able to sit down with my dad and he enjoyed this match as much as he did, and I enjoyed it as much as I did, and just very near and dear to my heart, and that's why this match is number 6 on my all-time top 10 favourite triple threat matches, and again, that was Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus John Cena, Survivor Series 2009. We're halfway through the list already. Match number 5 on my top 10 favourite triple threat list matches. AJ Styles versus Jerry Lynn versus Low-Ki in a triple threat ladder match, or a triple ladders match as TNA dubbed it on TNA July 17th, 2002. I believe this was still around the time they were doing the weekly pay-per-views, but banger of a match, amazing triple threat match. Low-Ki, one of the best ladder matches that I've ever seen of all time as well. But number 5 on this list, AJ Styles versus Jerry Lynn versus Low-Ki, triple ladder match. Number 4 on this list, The Rock versus Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker, Vengeance 2001. I would hate to think how many times I've legit watched this match overall. It's one of the earlier wrestling DVDs that I got, and I have watched the whole event so many times. Actually, I should say, I think it was Vengeance 2002, actually. My apologies. I miswrote, I made a typo on my notes. I wrote 2001. Vengeance 2002. 2001, I think, was when Jericho unified the titles. Vengeance 2002, The Rock versus Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker. I could have just redid that and edited it out, but it's caught in conversation, and it's authentic, and it's transparent. Number 4 on the list, The Rock versus Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker, Vengeance 2002. The only note that I actually put about this when I wrote it down was, this one is a hell of a lot of fun. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out. And we're already into the top 3. The top 3 already of my all-time favourite triple threat matches. Number 3 is AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe at TNA Unbreakable 2005. This match has been talked about so many times here at CIC Pod and hailed as the best ever 3-way of all time by a lot of people. It helped inspire this past weekend's TNA event, as I said earlier. And just this match in general, a lot of people feel, including those in TNA, put TNA on the map in 2005. And of course, I've had many people on this show that have also talked about this match when I've asked them about some of their favourite matches that they've seen just in general, regardless if it's a triple threat. But this is my top 3 favourite triple threat match of all time. And spoiler alert, this match does feature very highly on the next list as well. But number 3 of my top 10 favourite triple threat matches, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, TNA Unbreakable 2005. Number 2 on my top 10 favourite. I know I've said that every time and you're probably sick of me saying it, but I'm trying to let it be known that these are 2 separate lists, and if you're not paying full attention and you just got me in the background trying to make sure everything's transparent, number 2 on my top 10 favourite, I'm going to keep saying it now just for shits and gigs, triple threat matches of all time. Number 2 is the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus Edge and Christian in TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. Again, I've talked about this match till I'm blue in the face. You know, the spot with the diving spear from the ladder was the exact spot that made me as a young man go, hey, I want to become a professional wrestler one day. And this match was actually just last week with Two's Company, the match of the week for that episode. So there you go. And now, drum roll please. Because my soundboard doesn't have a fucking drum roll button. I could program one, but I like the ones that are already there. Anyway, number 1 in my top 10 favorite triple threat matches of all time, and it's probably tied for my favorite match of all time, honestly, along with TLC 2 and the Eddie Guerrero Rey Mysterio match from Halloween Havoc 97. But this, when a lot of people say what my favorite match is, this one often comes up. So it is definitely my favorite triple threat match regardless, but one of my favorite matches regardless. Triple H versus The Rock versus Big Show at Survivor Series 1999. And admittedly, there is a whole bunch of nostalgia with this one, which is what makes it my favorite. But again, that's why I've separated it as favorite and not best. But the mix of storylines going into this match, even on the show itself, with the who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin angle that was going on, you enter Big Show as a surprise entrant at the last second. Big Show, of course, having that emotional storyline about losing his father, which was revealed in real life later on, that he'd actually lost his real father a couple of years previous to this storyline, which is why he was able to be so emotional in this storyline, because he was just drawing real emotion from what had happened a few years previously. And then, of course, you had Vince McMahon, trying to, I almost said Triple H, trying to screw Triple H. This is your daily reminder that Brett screwed Brett. Vince McMahon trying to screw Triple H out of the title, hence why in kayfabe it was a triple threat with Rock and Austin originally anyway. And then this whole pay-per-view, just in general, from the original Survivor Series format, was portrayed very well with the Survivor Series tag. This is, all flowed very well, and this triple threat just wraps up that whole event so nicely. This is low-key one of my favorite pay-per-views in general of all time. It's probably definitely my favorite Survivor Series pay-per-view of all time, along with the 2002 event, which is very solid. But this match is just absolutely amazing, and as I said, the pay-per-view as a whole is great, because you get to watch so many people become stars in literal real time. But number one on my top 10 favorite triple threat matches of all time, Triple H versus The Rock versus Big Show, Survivor Series 1999. But with that being said, let me know what you guys have as your top 10 favorites. And again, maybe some will have favorites and best on the same list. Maybe some will separate them like I will. But that was my top 10 favorite list. And once I've done the honorable mentions and then the top 10 best, I will rapid fire back through both lists. But without further ado, honorable mentions. As I mentioned earlier, I have picked 3 given the theme. But these top 3 honorable mentions, they're honestly open for interpretation. You could put them on the favorite list, you could put them on the best list, because honestly they're all just great and could easily fall on either of them. But in no particular order, your 3 honorable mentions are AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe at Turning Point 2009. A great rematch that, although while not as good as the original, still had so much of the same magic, and it was really a great showing at seeing how much growth all 3 of these guys had in that point. Obviously 4 years on from the original triple threat match at that point. But honorable mention number 1, AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe at Turning Point 2009. Honorable mention number 2, John Cena versus Big Show versus Edge at WrestleMania 25. Now, while this is obviously far from a 5-star classic, fuck Dave Meltzer, he's never gave Kurt Angle a 5-star classic. Y'all just knew I had to throw that in there somewhere, because I bring it up every chance I get. But while this is far from a 5-star classic, this was a great display of WWE's specific brand of sports entertainment. All 3 guys get an amazing shine. There's obviously that iconic shot where John Cena has both Edge and the Big Show up on his shoulders in that just ridiculous display of strength. That, if I could get a photo of that one day and somehow have all 3 of those guys sign it, I would frame that shit on my wall. That is one hell of a photograph. Side note, I am actually giving away a signed Edge plaque if y'all help me get the Court in Conversation Facebook page to 500 followers. But no, I would get that signed, and I would definitely not give it away. It'd be so sick. That, just that screenshot of Cena, and obviously people that were there in person have... People that were in there in person have taken actual photos of that, and it's an absolutely iconic shot. But yeah, number 2 on my honorable mention list, John Cena versus Big Show versus Edge at WrestleMania 25. And now, honorable mention number 3, with a bit of Aussie flavour, not that I'm biased, Robbie Eagles versus Will Ospreay versus Adam Brooks at MCW New Horizons 2017. I'm not actually sure how or where you can watch this match now because it's no longer on YouTube, and this event as a whole isn't a part of the MCW catalog on Stream Horizon that I could see when I looked for it. But regardless of it being biased to the Aussie flavour, obviously Will Ospreay, an Englishman, but it took place in Melbourne for an Australian company with Melbourne City Wrestling, obviously two very well-known Aussies with Robbie Eagles, Adam Brooks. But regardless of that, this match, like, it's super indie, but it's honestly just an absolute masterpiece. And if you haven't seen it, you should definitely seek this out with some sort of Google search or something. There is a highlight video of this on YouTube that if you just type it in, it'll pop up. But, like, dude, these guys just beat the absolute crap out of each other. They do all the flips and tricks. They do all the stunts, as I was joking about with my friend Disturbed yesterday the other day on his Twitch channel. They do all the stunts and tricks and flips, but it's just, wow, this is absolutely just an insane matchup, and I am clamoring for a rematch one day, somehow, some way. But honourable mention number 3, Robbie Eagles versus Will Ospreay versus Adam Brooks, MCW New Horizons 2017. With that being said, it is time now to jump in to what I think are the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time. And again, for the most part, this is just my opinion. If you disagree, that is fine. We can have a friendly debate, but I'm not going to have an argument. But I have compiled my own opinions, mixed with, I did put up a post saying, hey guys, what are some of your favourites, blah, 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 and I got some on the CIC pod page and then a couple on the Aussie wrestling community page as well. But obviously just combined it with conversations that I've had with wrestling friends of mine and discussions we've had on wrestling forums and stuff, just in general in the past. But yeah, this is just my list. If you disagree, that's fine. But once I've done this, let me know what your top 10 best are or your top 10 favourites are. Or if you only have the one list, that's fine. But if you've got two like me, that's even better because we can dissect this shit and it's so fun to do. But number 10 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time, in my opinion, Kane versus Raven versus The Big Show in a hardcore triple threat match, WrestleMania 17. And this one here has almost become a lost hidden gem because of the classic WrestleMania card that's a part of. Obviously, a lot of people say that this is the greatest WrestleMania of all time. I'm one of them. I know my friend Nick Maltino likes WrestleMania 19. My buddy Swags loves WrestleMania 20. A lot of great WrestleManias out there, but my God, I almost said Triple H. This triple threat match between Kane, Raven, and Big Show at WrestleMania 17, absolute banger, and it is number 10, in my opinion, on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time. Number 9, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania 35. I obviously just kind of glossed over that at the start of the episode with the match of the week, but that's why it's here. The build-up, the spectacle, everything. Despite that slightly clunky ending, these women beat the crap out of each other. They actually did have a really good match leading up to that point. And then obviously Becky Lynch as the man, raising both the SmackDown and Raw Women's Championships above her head to close out WrestleMania. Well deservedly so, being the first women to main event WrestleMania. And Becky Lynch being the last thing you see was a really cool moment, for women's wrestling in general. But this triple threat in general is just, it is a really good triple threat. And unfortunately, because a lot of people, as I said when I was talking about the match of the week, all three of these women are divisive, especially, Charlotte Flair as a character and then Ronda Rousey as a person. I'm not going to get into that, but very divisive people. But this match, great match. Match number 9 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time. In my opinion, I'm going to stress my opinion every time because that's just what it is. But I think number 9, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey, WrestleMania 35. Number 8 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time, in my opinion, Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus at WrestleMania 39. All I'm going to say about this one, straight, simple to the point, I'm just going to steal a line from Sheamus himself. Banger after banger after banger. Go watch this match. Now, I don't put stock into star ratings too much, but I literally said when I watched it that if Dave Meltzer doesn't give this 5 stars, then he's a dickhead, basically. And he gave it 5 stars, so, you know what they say, broken clocks right twice a day. But this was a legitimate 5-star match. Number 8, Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus, WrestleMania 39. Once again, banger after banger after banger. Match number 7 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time. We have the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus Edge and Christian in a triangle ladder match at WrestleMania 16. This match that started it all and is basically the unofficial first ever TLC match. And obviously I mentioned TLC 2 in my favourite list, and obviously, spoiler alert, it's on this portion of the list as well. But I will give a shout out and honestly somewhat of an honourable mention to the first ever TLC match at SummerSlam 2000 as well that stemmed from this. But this match here at WrestleMania 16 is just absolutely phenomenal and has just as many highlight clips from this match as TLC 2 and, TLC 1 as well, to its own credit. But honestly, I know I have a lot of family and friends that just kind of listen to this podcast just to show their support and basically just have background noise. And while I appreciate that, if you're someone that somehow hasn't seen all of these matches, go back and watch all 3 of these in chronological order. From the triangle ladder match at WrestleMania 16 or WrestleMania 2000, since that's the year it took place and that's what they called it. But triangle ladder match at WrestleMania 16, followed by TLC 1 at SummerSlam 2000, and then TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. Back to back to back, you will not be disappointed with this. It's just absolute chaos. It's absolute car crash action. It's insanity. It is amazing. But yeah, if you somehow haven't seen any of these matches, go watch the 3 of them back to back to back. It is just ridiculous. But number 7 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time, in my opinion, the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus Edge and Christian triangle ladder match at WrestleMania 16. Number 6 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time, in my opinion, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks at WrestleMania 32. This was an absolute changing of the guard for women's wrestling in general. Charlotte Flair enters this match as the WWE Divas Champion, but of course, just before this match, it was actually announced that following the match, Charlotte's Divas Championship would be retired and it would be replaced with the winner getting the brand new version of the WWE Women's Championship. The women would no longer be referred to as divas. They were now officially WWE superstars, just like the men. And this match absolutely delivered. All 3 women, all 3 wrestlers looking like $1,000,000. And in a lot of people's eyes, this was actually match of the night on that same WrestleMania card. Just a great matchup. Number 6 on this list was Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks. Or Sasha Banks, if you have an American accent. Number 5 on the top 10 best wrestling matches of all time. Number 5 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time. Again, I flubbed. I'm going to leave it in. This is the chaos you get. Randy Orton versus Batista versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. And admittedly, I am not the biggest fan of Daniel Bryan, but again, trying to be unbiased and factoring in a lot of different things for this list to make it seem as legitimate as I possibly can in my marky-ass opinion. But the entire build-up with the Yes Movement, Daniel Bryan having to fight through the Authority, including a match with Triple H earlier on in this same night, which admittedly I did think was a better match than this triple threat as a whole. But since we're talking about triple threats specifically, this match did deliver. And the story of Evolution working together to kind of take out Daniel Bryan But at the end of the day, it inevitably comes down to it is every man for themselves. Only one person can win. And then Bryan ultimately ends the night as the ultimate underdog. It's one hell of a moment. Great culmination of a long journey for Daniel Bryan / Bryan Danielson himself. Great match. Number 5 on this list, Randy Orton versus Batista versus Daniel Bryan. Number 4 on my list for the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time is Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 20. This match was almost the blueprint for the match that I just mentioned in terms of the psychology and the layout of the match and the way things were done. But once again, it just had a great story leading up to it. People were slightly skeptical on if Chris Benoit could deliver a big main event match. And he did. He did it tenfold and then some, arguably even outshining Mr. WrestleMania himself in Shawn Michaels in this matchup. Seeing Triple H tap out at that point was almost completely unheard of. And then, of course, the moment with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero after the match as well, where Eddie comes out to help Chris celebrate. Absolutely beautiful moment, fondly remembered by fans from that era. And I know a lot of people struggle to watch Chris Benoit matches after the, trigger warning, double murder, suicide that allegedly happened in 2007. And I say allegedly because if you watch Dark Side of the Ring, the case was actually reopened, but it's at a standstill. Anyway, a lot of people struggle to watch his matches given that whole circumstances, and completely understandable. We do our best to actually avoid talking about him here on CIC Pod, but you can't talk about triple threat matches and not include this match. And as I said in the favourites list, I personally preferred the Backlash match more, but if you look at it as a whole, this match, number 4, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, Chris Benoit, WrestleMania 20, number 4 on the top 10 best triple threat match list. And now drum roll, please. Number 3 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time, Brock Lesnar. I can't do that at the best of times, let alone when my throat is dry as fuck. I need some more water, but I'm trying to power through this list before I have a drink. Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth Rollins, Royal Rumble 2015. This was yet another awkward era for WWE. They were trying to find their feet again in a lot of ways. Obviously, the actual Rumble itself on this show had an absolutely hectic reaction with Roman Reigns later in the same night. The fans as a whole kind of revolted on the whole company. For the record, I was cheering for Roman at that time. He's always been my tribal chief, but whatever. This triple threat match is very much a diamond in the rough for this time period. And even when you put it against some of these classics, well and truly stands up. And I know multiple people, when I put that question out there, immediately threw this one out there. And I actually watched this match after seeing the results when it originally happened. And I was still in shock at some of the near falls and stuff that happened throughout of it. All three of these guys gave everything they could. Seth Rollins even cracks a rib in the process with some of his high-impact, high-flying moves. And for the most part, you don't even realize that he's done it. He still pushed through to have this amazing performance. But number 3 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time, in my opinion, Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth Rollins, Royal Rumble 2015. Number 2 on the top 10 best triple threat matches of all time, the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus Edge and Christian, TLC 2, WrestleMania 17. Yes, here it is. As I said, I have talked about this match until I am blue in the face on many, many episodes, as so many of us have out there in the world on social media and even here on this podcast. A lot of you guys that I've had on have said the same thing that I have about this match. Some of you may even be cussing me out that this match isn't number 1, but bear with me and we'll find out why. Some of you may already know what number 1's going to be. Some of you may have a hunch what number 1 is going to be, but number 1 on this list, in my opinion, the best triple threat match of all time is AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe at TNA Unbreakable 2005. And of course, as I said, in my favorites list, this was number 3. TLC 2 was still number 2. It fell at the 2 spot on both lists, but again, I tried my best to be unbiased. But yeah, this match basically started this entire episode's idea, as I said, because this match was the reason TNA just held an entire event to pay homage to this one match. And of course, spoiler alert, but it's social media, congratulations to Steve Macklin, who became the first ever TNA International Champion. That championship looks fucking beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Just wow. And actually a really good triple threat match with Eric Young and AJ Francis as well. And AJ Francis slowly starting to get his due, which is great, because I've been a fan since he first started, and even when he was green, I could see potential, and I'm glad that so many people are finally starting to come around to AJ, but he is doing great heel work. But we're talking about another AJ right now, AJ Styles, the man that built TNA, against Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe, TNA Unbreakable 2005, as I said. Whole reason this episode started, talked about by myself, multiple guests, but it is just an absolute masterpiece in my opinion. And if I can steal a line, I stole a line from Sheamus earlier on in the list, if I can steal a line from AJ Styles, this match is truly phenomenal. And I genuinely think that it is going to take a legitimate miracle to top this triple threat match. But once again, let me know what you guys think. How do you feel about the way that I've broken these up into the 2 categories? What do you think of the favorites list? What do you think of the best lists? What would you have on your lists, etc., etc.? I'm going to take a quick swig of water, and then I'm going to rapid fire back through both lists, the honorable mentions, and then we'll do some quick plugs and get the fuck out of here. Okay, my top 10 favorite lists. Rapid firing back through my top 10 favorites. Number 10, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Chris Benoit, Backlash 2004. Number 9, Terry Funk versus the Sandman versus Stevie Richards, 3-way dance, ECW Barely Legal. Number 8, Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio versus CM Punk, IWA Mid-South, Spring Heat 2002. Number 7, Los Guerreros versus Rey Mysterio and Edge versus Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, Survivor Series 2002. Number 6, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus John Cena, Survivor Series 2009. Number 5, AJ Styles versus Jerry Lynn versus Low Ki in a triple ladders match, TNA July 2002. Number 4, The Rock versus Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker, Vengeance 2002, not 2001. Make sure you proofread before you start recording, John. Number 3, AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe at Unbreakable 2005. Number 2, The Hardys versus The Dudleys versus Edge and Christian, TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. And number 1 on my top 10 favorites list, Triple H versus The Rock versus The Big Show, Survivor Series 1999. But again, that was the top 10 favorites in rapid fire tradition. And the 3 honorable mentions that I had were TNA Turning Point 2009, AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe. Then we had John Cena versus The Big Show, Edge, WrestleMania 25. And then we had Robbie Eagles versus Will Ospreay versus Adam Brooks, MCW New Horizons 2017. They were the 3 honorable mentions. And now, to rapid fire back what I think are the best triple threats of all time. Number 10, Kane versus Raven versus The Big Show, Hardcore Triple Threat, WrestleMania 17. Number 9, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania 35. Number 8, Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus, WrestleMania 39. Number 7, The Hardys versus The Dudleys versus Edge and Christian at WrestleMania 16 in the Triangle Ladder match. Number 6, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks, WrestleMania 32. Number 5, Randy Orton versus Batista versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Number 4, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 20. Number 3, Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth Rollins, Royal Rumble 2015. Number 2, the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus ENC at TLC 2, WrestleMania 17. And number 1, in my opinion, the best, the greatest, the most unbreakable triple threat of all time, AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe at TNA Unbreakable 2005. I'd like to think that those lists are pretty solid, in my opinion. Just my opinion, I'm just a mark with a microphone, but definitely please hit me up on the socials, comment on the podcast platforms, let me know what you think. But I'm going to recap the song and match of the week. I'm going to do the plugs, and I'm going to do my best to get out of here in less than an hour. So, the song of the week this week was Unbreakable by Citizen Soldier, and the match of the week was Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania 35. But of course, of all of the matches that I've mentioned today, you should sit down and watch all of them, because how good is professional wrestling? But now, for the plugs. And of course, as always, even though she is not here, I will still put the lovely Novalee's link tree below as well. But check all of the links for our socials and everything else. Of course, we have, both of us have the CIC Patreon and Instagram and all of that stuff in there. I am in the process of, I need to hurry up and do it, of making a separate link tree just for CIC, just so it's not as convoluted. But of course, my link tree has the GoFundMe. We're not going to beg, but it's there. If you could help out, that would be awesome. If not, it's fine. My Amazon wishlist is there if you so choose. My Twitch links are there if you would like to give me a follow. Give Nova a follow on her Twitch as well. We're trying to get her some nice following before she starts streaming officially. Of course, Patreon, you get early access most of the time, this week being the exception because I've just thrown it out there, but usually you get early access with at least 2 days. In most cases, it's almost a full week if we can get the episodes and stuff and interviews in a can. Early access for as low as $5. And of course, Tier 2, $6 US, $10 Australian. You get immediate access to my first children's book. Book 1 in the 3-book miniseries with the Alphabet Smackdown series. It's basically, they're all just going to be the same, just with different animals, but there's going to be a little story to them where I can. Obviously, number 1 was rough around the edges because first, but number 2 and 3 have somewhat of a story, and then obviously, once I get those out, I want to get them out this year, because I want to at least start this year, even if I don't publish it until next year, but this year I want to at least start on my first full-length children's book, which Spicy actually said that he would voice the villain for when I eventually do that and have the audio version for. But yeah, book 1 of my 3-book miniseries of just the alphabetical animals is out now. It's there, it's pinned for $10 Australian. Eventually, when I do the audio version of that, it'll be on the Patreon as well. Eventually, I want to have them all on Amazon, but that's neither here nor there. But for all the wrestles, all the stuff and all the things, MXW Let 'Em Cook, May 31st for fans in Victoria. Link is below. ICW Tag Warfare, June 7th. Link is below for people in the ACT or surrounding New South Wales areas. Extreme Capital Wrestling presents Guilty Verdict on July 19th. Just because Nova and I won't be there this time doesn't mean that you shouldn't be. At the Queanbeyan and Tigers Club, right on the border of the New South Wales and the ACT. Link is below. And then, of course, the big one, the one that I look forward to every year, the Emma Butler Memorial Show. I'm not going to sit here and rant and get all emotional today, but we are raising money for an amazing cause. We have raised over $4,000 between the 2 shows that we've had so far. This will be the 3rd one, and obviously even just outside of that, we've raised a little bit more. We've saved a handful of lives. I say we, but the doctors have saved a handful of lives with the scopes and stuff that have been able to be donated with the money raised, including locally in the Central West area where the Emma Butler Memorial shows happen. Of course, I do still have Radiation Kick shirts here at home. You can pre-order them for $30 for the event, or if you need them posted, an extra $10 for 1 to 2 shirts. Obviously, 3 or more shirts, $15. If you want to order the whole fucking thing, we can discuss. But $30 per shirt, $10 each shirt goes to the Emma Butler Tongue Cancer Charity. I'm very proud of. I think I've raised, just over $200 ish. Myself for the Emma Butler Memorial Show through my merch sales of those shirts, and then other merch that I sold at the Emma Butler shirt, and then just, a little bit extra that I put in here and there at the last show. But I'm not trying to sound like I'm bragging. I'm just, it's a cause that does mean a lot to me, losing my dad to the same type of cancer as Emma. So yeah, just October 11th, Cowra Uniting Church. As I said in the intro, it's the same weekend as Bathurst 1000, so you could come to the wrestling on the Saturday, shoot over to the main Bathurst race on the Sunday. But with that being said, that is my list. Those are the plugs. We're pushing an hour right now, so I want to get out of here. But with that being said, just thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for showing your support. I'm hoping this wasn't too much of a rant. I'm hoping it was a great episode, because I always get, to be honest, with how hectic life has been right now, lately, I'm a little bit vulnerable right now, so I'm going to be honest. A lot of self-doubt creeping back in again, as happens from time to time. And so yeah, if you listen to this whole episode, let me know. I appreciate y'all. Definitely let me know your lists and what you think of my lists, etc., etc. But I am the Essential John L. Crossfire. You guys were just caught in conversation. And since Nova Lee's not here, I'll say it for her. Shaka-laka-laka. And then on behalf of both of us, titty sprinkles.